Hello everyone, my name is Acidical Portal, and today I'm going to show you and explain the basics of functions. Functions are relatively simple, but they are a lot more intimidating if you don't know exactly how they work. The important thing is just the way that functions work. So functions are a block of code that are in a script, and this block of code has to be executed when called. I have a part right here for this very specific example of what we're doing, and don't worry about these lines. These are marking measurements. So I already have a script going right here. Well, I started one, but I'll do a new function. So we want to do local function. So in Lua, there's a difference between function and local function, and it depends on their visibility and how they can be edited by other scripts. To create a function, you want to do local function. There's a difference between local functions and global functions, but that essentially means how they can be accessed. Global functions can be accessed through other scripts, and local functions are only within the script. So when it's called on a different script with a global function, it can be used by other scripts. But in this sense, we're only doing local functions, so it only applies to within this script right here. We have to give this function a value. It primarily works a lot like a variable, but variables are different things. Both contain the property of a value, which is an assignment of anything that you give it, which essentially defines the function. So we have local function right here, and so we can make this name up. Like, it can be the most obscure thing, but you don't want to do something like that because you're not going to remember it. We'll do part. Very simple because the parent of the script is the part. What we do with this line right here, don't worry about that red line underneath. But this bracket right here is the way that you close a function, and it's used for other things as well, including for using arguments to put inside of here, but that's for later on. And so when I enter, it's going to end this function. So this, from lines 1 to 3, is all a part of this function right here, this piece of code. And we can create more lines, but everything that we do is all affected within lines 1 to 3. So notice how I can close this. It skips line 2 because you can actually close this block of code. I mean, there's essentially nothing in here right now, but everything from line 1 to 13, right? This is 11 lines of code. This is good for much larger scripts, just to make things a lot more basic when you're working with these. Let's make this a bit shorter. We can do literally anything with this. So I'm going to create a very simple function that's going to affect the light of this part. We'll do some light, and we'll also change its color too. It's luminescent, and I think the highest range you can get is like 60, I think. We'll do 20 range, 10 brightness, and that's a bit excessive, but just to show what we need. I'm going to disable this because we're going to enable this with the script, and we'll keep the brick color a medium stone gray. We have a point light right here, which is also a child of this part. So the parent is this part right here. You can do multiple different commands within a function. It doesn't just have to be secular to one thing. Script, when we type in script, that essentially tells the script that we want to use the script within this piece of code. And then what we want to do is parent, like I said, because part is the parent of the script, as you see right here. Okay, so there's part.parent, and then if we want to affect, or if we want to get to the point light, what we have to do is we have to reference the point light as well as we did the parent, which is the part. We have a few options. As you can see right here, this is a instance that we can click on. So it's script.parent. So we're going from the script to this part to here. Essentially what this does is it moves around, and now as we can edit the individual properties of the PointLight. So there's several of these, but for a very basic one, here's the appearance right here. And this is essentially a part of the properties. So script.parent.PointLight, and then dot, we'll go to enabled, and we'll make this equal to true. Even though that this is disabled, when we run the game, this should run. But there's one problem. If we run the game right now, it's not going to do anything. And the reason for that is because the function needs to be called. Maybe asking, well, what the hell does that mean? Every function is essentially a set of instructions inside of a block of code. Like I said, the problem is that code has to be organized in a way that makes sense and can be called at the correct time whenever a condition becomes true. In the sense of this function, this local function that we have right here, we have to do part. So we do part like that, and this right here closes the function that we just made. But when we run the game, this should, yeah, it's super bright, and now the part, it's enabled. It wasn't like that before. We can manually do it too, but the cool thing about scripts, they can edit parts in instances without us having to actually manually do it ourselves. Scripts can do it much faster than we can do it. All right. So if there's other parts that we want to, or I'm saying parts, if there's other things that we want to edit about the property of this part, we have to reference the part again, unless we create a variable, but I wouldn't worry about that right now. So script.parent.brick color, and now we're going to change the brick color, as you've probably noted. So the reason why we do equal right here is because when it's equal to itself like that, that essentially means that we want to change it. So whenever something is equal, that's when it's changed. It's kind of like 1 + 1 = 2, right? Because it's itself and adding more to it. I don't think that's the greatest example, but script.parent.brick color, another parentheses for this specific command. So brick color uses a thing called enums, which is a list of like internal keywords that Lua already has. Silly me, I forgot. Okay. So script.parent.brickcolor equals brickcolor.new. We have to do .new so we can tell the script, hey, we want to change the color of this part. We're going to add quotations because we're going to be referencing an enum, which is a list of keywords in Lua for different things that aren't within Lua's regular files or conditions. But this is the color palette right here, and these are all the different colors that we can directly access. So we can make it green, we can make it red like this, we can make it blue. But notice how brick color, they all have their own names. It tells you right here their names. And so if we're going to make it a certain color, we have to quotation its name right here and put it inside of that parentheses so it recognizes, okay, you want to turn it into this color. It actually gives you a list of strings that you can pick out of here, and there's many of them. The color palette is only a handful of colors that are readily available. What's a pretty color? Forest green. I like forest green. We should get like a dark green once we start running this game, and the PointLight should be super bright like that. Maybe to make it look a little bit more realistic, a green glowing part probably wouldn't be emitting white glowing light. Oh no, I was in ambience, silly me. We can do it manually like this, but we want to do it with a script because that's the more efficient way of doing it in this particular lesson that we're doing right now. All right, so we're going to reference this part again, and in future videos I will show you how to use variables, which make this way more convenient, but I don't want to overwhelm you with like way too much going on, so we'll stick to referencing right now. So script.parent.brick These are the different properties / instance configurations. Let's see, script.parent.PointLight. So we're referencing the PointLight again. Dot color equals color3 dot new, and color, by the way, color3 dot new is a different way to access color. Brick color is not the same thing as color. They're similar, but they're not the same. Brick color is you're accessing like actual different like colors within the color palette, the brick color, and color just means like any color that you choose. So you have this haze of everything on the visible light spectrum that you can choose, and it's a hex digit of 16 right here. So you have all these different values, and you have a combination of up to like 16 million different colors. So it works a bit differently. But thankfully, there's recently an update where you can actually do this, and you can actually manually just choose the different colors that you want. To make this green, all you have to do is just drag it to a green part, and now you have this really weird value right here, but that's important because that's the exact location this piece of color is on this square right here. Oh shit, forgot to stop the game. That's an important thing, by the way. You don't want your game to be running when you're editing scripts, because that can do some wacky things that you don't want. So if we run this should be green. Yep, it is green. So a lot of like very basic, a lot of these concepts, the cool thing about programming, a lot of the basics concepts are simple. It's just that we use simple things to create more complicated structures. And that's essentially what we're doing here, right? This is ultimately incredibly simple. There's nothing inherently complicated about this. Like, this is only about 6 or 7 lines of code that we just did. And so when you're making code, just remember to structure it properly. And when you're making a function, to take away from here, functions are essentially blocks of code that will trigger when it is called. So just to show you, just to recap, if I delete this right here, it will not run. Nothing happens when we get rid of that. But when we call it, when we call the function, when we write it down, it even tells you that it's a function right here. And that's why it's yellow, because that's the special keyword. Part is the special word that we're using for this call. So and now it works, and now we did this cool thing to this part. I hope my confusing explanation made it a little bit easier. I just wanted to get very basic with you guys. If you're struggling to understand like what is a function, this will hopefully give you like a good idea of what a function is supposed to do. So that's about it. I make other videos, and I'm planning to do more tutorials on Roblox Studio. And if you enjoyed this video, I have like 50 other tutorials. So go check out my other content. I do gaming. I do all sorts of stuff. So I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. And I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good one.